Hi, welcome. I'm Karen.
I'm Christina, and this is Subtitles.
That means we're speaking in English. That means it's Thursday.
It is Thursday.
Or it will be Thursday.
Will be Thursday.
It could be
but
any day
Mondays
today.
is in Spanish. So for our Spanish listeners, we just want to take one quick second and say, si escucháis subtítulos en español y os apetece seguir en inglés, los jueves hacemos en inglés el podcast.
Sí.
Y podéis aprender un poco mejor pues como el vocabulario, el slang y el tal en inglés. And for our English speaking audiences and listeners, we have a Spanish podcast on Mondays, Subtítulos, where you can follow along. Maybe you can practice or improve your Spanish. If you want, you can hear the different dialects. So make sure to check those out on YouTube or wherever you get your
If you hit the three buttons at the top right, you can get the captions. They'll be in Spanish, but it helps you read along if maybe you don't catch everything. But also be warned, it doesn't always translate perfectly.
Not that we assume you wouldn't. You would have. We know you would catch on.
You would catch, yes, right. And so, wrapping up with that, today what we're going to talk about is traditions and routines.
Oh, how nice it would be to have some.
Wouldn't it be, though? It seems like every podcast about what it takes to be the most successful, be a millionaire, blah, blah, blah. You have to wake up, be grateful about 5 different things, write them down, also record your dreams, take a cold shower, meditate for 20 minutes or 10 minutes.
Look into the sunlight at 7:40 a.m. in the morning.
Thank you, Andrew Huberman, for infecting us with that idea.
Exactly.
But what other traditions?
Breath exercises,
breathing,
goals for the day.
Yes, to-do lists are very important.
What is it? State, story, whatever, like Tim Ferriss, right? He has like prep your state, drink some pre-workout, nootropics,
you should
athletic
be
greens.
In a fasted state, by the way. So, and have the athletic greens half an hour before your coffee, otherwise it affects absorption.
And of course it should be either bulletproof or it should be whatever kind of a coffee.
That's right.
Like cold.
Should you add coconut oil or just like grass-fed butter to your coffee?
Yeah, the tears of an unborn, I don't know, some crazy.
So that's just before 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Because
you should be waking up at like 5:40. We all know that.
With the sun.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep up those window shades.
But also sleep 10 hours a day because it's good for your
Also
cognitive.
sleep in complete darkness because that helps you with your sleep.
And don't look at screens 4 hours before you go to sleep.
Well, I definitely by 11 p.m. no blue light, and also walk around with those
the blue light glasses.
The blue light glasses, because otherwise I think you die.
Limit your social media. Like read the Stoics at least 2 hours a day.
Marcus Aurelius references 3 to 10 times a day. Anything else?
So high intensity interval training.
You have to do high intensity interval training.
I don't know.
Also CrossFit.
Synergy. Disruptive. I'm just throwing words now.
3 to 4. All right, enough. We're funny. So
I mean, look, I will say, I have been obsessed with taking note of every single one of these rituals, habits of successful
That's
people.
why we were able to list them off, because we listen to this stuff and don't act on it,
and
but
we
God, we want to.
Yeah, we do. We really do.
It'd be great.
But actually, not to kind of keep referring, but I do love me like a good Tim Ferriss podcast because he's so good.
God damn it. He's just collecting geniuses left and right. He's like, tell me everything you know.
Tim
and it
Ferriss,
works.
call us. We would love to have you on the podcast. Really, there's one, when he talks about, in Tribe of Mentors, I think it is, or Tools of the Titans, I can't remember which one, but he interviews one person, and I remember out of all of the interviews, which are hundreds, by the way, thousands if it's his podcast nowadays, but he interviews somebody who says, okay, so if you were to give someone, something that you do every day, which I would, again, always try to implement. For a month, I would do a gratitude journal or I would meditate. But, this guy was saying, you know what? I learned my personality is not given to rituals.
Okay.
Because I don't have the consistency in my schedule, in my day-to-day, in my work, in anything, which I very much resonated with. And he said, what I can do is I can dive deep and I can binge on a certain type of philosophy, mentality, or ritual for a very limited amount of time.
Okay.
And then see what sticks, right? So, I feel that happens a lot to very immersive people who have immersive learning as part of their strategy in life. It's very hard for me to say, read 1 hour every night.
I mean, it sounds like it requires a certain obsessive component to your personality,
Yes.
which I think, honestly, that's got to be the undercurrent to so many of these people, because if you don't have that in you, then
But there's obsessive for schedule, rigidity, and structure. And then there's the obsessive for immersive, which is why I'm calling it immersive. I don't know what they would call it or he would call it.
Okay.
But to me, for example, I can't read 1 hour every night because that's way too long for me to read anything I'm not interested in. But if I'm interested, I will read all night. And I will wake up, I will read until 6 a.m. and then my alarm will go off and I'll have to run to set and I will have pulled an all-nighter reading some book.
Yeah.
So, but I need to structure my life to allow for that. I guess that's what I learned with it.
You need to avoid structure to allow for it, or structure it so that it allows for no structure. That's, I mean, it's...
Yeah, I know.
I get what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes. So basically, free flow.
Yeah. Or at least, you know, kind of, I talk about this a lot. I don't know if you and I have talked about it, but like I read this book and it's 2 Harvard researchers. It's called The Power of Full Engagement. I recommend it to everyone, especially actors and people who, are, you know, really grappling with what to do for themselves and all that stuff. But I think anybody who wants to be a high-end performer, they took tennis players and athletes and they took the top 2% of professional athletes, right? And then there's the 0.2% of the top 2%, which are the Federers and the Nadal and the superstars. Yeah. And they wanted to see what separates those 2 camps. Okay. So not the 2% from the rest, but the 0.2 from the rest of the 2%.
The 10,000 hours from the 20,000 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. Sure, Malcolm.
Sure. Yeah.
No, but it is. Yeah. And what they noticed is they ate the same. Their rituals were exactly the same. They did the same day-to-day routines, workouts. Even their physiology was the same. Because they thought, oh, maybe they have a physical or genetic advantage.
Right.
They didn't.
Okay.
But they rested differently.
Go ahead.
During the games, during the matches, when they weren't actively playing, it was full rest. They weren't talking with their coach, trying to like figure out and solve a problem. They would like put their hat down, just breathe, not think about it.
Like almost like a meditative, as opposed to active rest?
Yes, not active, completely passive. So what this book kind of really reinforces as a message is we're constantly taught that time management is the key. They argue, and I'm 100% on board with this, that it's not time management, it's energy management. Because you could spend 8 hours writing, if you're not motivated or what they call like the flow states or whatever, it doesn't matter that you spent 8 hours. It's probably less productive than the 20 minutes at the coffee shop where you're inspired and on it and suddenly you just have to write. Right? We've all had moments like that. Yeah. You sit to do your taxes, you just can't do it. You're not in it. Sometimes you have all the energy and you're like, I'm ready to tackle this. Right. That's what they think is a bigger asset, and that these high-end performers, in this case athletes, really manage because life is not a marathon. Life is a series of sprints. Ooh. It's fucking fantastic. I recommend it.
Professional resters, like just elite resting.
Well, what does a sprinter do? Full force, full energy for a certain amount of time, limited, and then full rest. They're not jogging in between their sprints. You know what I mean? So and I think that was a big key for me because I would battle with not being ritualistic.
Same. Well, I mean, you're told, and I think for the most part it is true. It does help for most creatures to have, set schedules, because your body runs on a schedule. Rhythms. We have, exactly, circadian rhythms. Every parent knows that their child behaves better on a really fixed napping schedule. You feed your dog at the same time. If you can regulate it, it's a wonderful thing. Yes. Religious rituals at the same time, right? We do thrive in routine. But I think, when the routine becomes like punishment, right? Yeah. Or it's something that you can't attain, it's really not... Let's look at it this way. Is there something in your life that, even though isn't regulated by time, is a bit ritualistic?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very ritualistic and very, not superstitious, but I do have a lot of things with work that I like to do beforehand, the way I prep my roles, the way I tackle certain artistic endeavors, things like that. Yeah. But for me, the idea of a traditional kind of ritualistic schedule, what it would do is it would make me feel like a failure a lot of the time. So not meeting it, and I think a lot of people sometimes feel this way, not meeting it loads you with so much more guilt that the negative repercussions of not doing it are so much bigger than even the positive ones of if you do attain it. You know, that it just like, for me, that was really difficult. But I think you and I talk a lot about this, right? The symbolism in rituals.
It was Memoirs of a Geisha, about like turning the routine into ritual. Something like that.
You've mentioned that before.
Which I think is lovely because routine, obviously the association with that word is like, for the most part, dull. Repetitive is routine.
Boring.
Ritual has some sort of, you know, almost like religious and spiritual kind of component to it.
And care to it too, right?
Right. And I, like interest, specificity, all those things. I think ritual, I mean, partly it contains the word rich, which isn't part of rich as in money or whatever, but it just, maybe just audibly it kind of triggers something.
As two highly probably offensive stereotypes in gender.
Go ahead.
But I'm going to make this example because I think people can relate. Women putting on makeup. You can make it very ritualistic if it's a night out and you take your time and you know the rituals you go through or whatever, or taking a long bath and doing all those things where you exfoliate and you do the masks. And I think guys sometimes can be that way with their cars, washing their cars or their bikes. Again, very stereotypical, and I apologize because of course this is generalizing. But I think it's that, right? It's not just a car wash. You're detailing your car.
Let's be a little bit gross about it. I've heard shit, shower, and shave, the 3 S's for men.
Oh, God.
And with that, we're going to cut for a second.
Yeah.
You know, Jessica just brought up tradition.
Yeah.
As another possible word to throw into the mix.
Yeah. I mean, I think...
Got any?
So, let's... First, I guess I don't know how you would define tradition per se, but I would assume it's rituals that are passed on either through generations or over a consistent amount of time. Yeah,
you know, it didn't even, the passed on thing, I first thought of tradition as in, I have a personal tradition of doing a deep clean of wherever I'm living.
End of the year, right?
End of the year tradition, a lot of like little things, maybe before my birthday and so on and so forth. Like, I've never been a very religious person, so I don't think too much about religious traditions or holiday traditions. I didn't really care about going to graduations. Those sorts of traditions I've never really been attached to.
Like social ones.
Yeah.
Or religious or community-based.
Do you have any? I'll try to think of something other than my own.
I think I'm a total basic bitch when it comes to New Year's. I love New Year's. I love the symbolism of it. It doesn't have to be January 1st. I get that. Or like, with the new year and but as much as I love going home for Christmas, there's no meaning other than I get to see all my family and that's exciting.
Yeah.
But New Year's is mine. Like, New Year's is the time where I set resolution. I do all of those things. I will, set new goals, new intentions. I'll do a schedule that I'll never follow. I clean, I purge, I get rid of stuff. I, try, it's like new me, right? New year, new me. It's super basic, and so I love it.
Do you attach a meaning to the actual, midnight? So I also will do all that cleaning and all this stuff, getting rid of it, and so on and so forth. But because the actual striking of the bell, it just feels so anticlimactic most of the time for me. I will say sometimes I would be a little bit sorry to sleep through it. Like, I think I do want to have that moment. But assigning, I think a lot of people are generally disappointed, in the New Year's moment. Like, something special is going to happen. I'm like, not really.
I guess either...
It's just a page turn.
I'm a person of extremes, always have been. So either it's going to be epic because it's something, whatever.
You've planned something around it.
Right. You've planned something around that moment. It's a huge party. Like, we've had, it's kind of equivalent to maybe Times Square type thing in Spain. There's places like that.
I've done the abroad thing, which is great. South America.
Those I think are fantastic. Or a massive party with all your friends. Or some kind of silent rave in the desert, howling at the moon at midnight. Some bizarre shit. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
If it's not that, I kind of don't really care, but I do feel... I think you and I were in Sumatra at the end of
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a year ago. God, pandemic. 2 years ago now?
Oh, Jesus, that New Year's. Sorry to everyone that was with us. That one blew.
That was really bad. And
Location-wise,
we missed it.
phenomenal. Looking at a map, I'm like, yeah, I've been there. That's weird. And I like that. I like being able to look at a map and say, that's an odd place to be and I've been there in the world. But...
Well, because as a celebration of the new year, we were all exhausted. We had gone scuba diving or like to go see orangutans or something in the morning. Yeah. We were all so tired. It was 6 p.m. You know, by the time we started having dinner, by the time 10, there was nothing around in the town. It's also strict Sharia law, so like there was no alcohol for anyone and anything like that. So
we were playing cards. One girl had the flu.
Yeah, it was just one of those situations where New Year's wasn't really a thing. We all went to bed when we were tired. And it was I was a little sad.
Yeah, a little bit. And also I think a lot of us like spoke to people in other parts of the world that were already having their New Year's. Yeah. I felt like we kind of like let ourselves
FOMO.
FOMO.
Even though we were in
and also other people were like, oh, well, we've already, it was...
Maybe before?
It was before, right? We're in Asia. We were.
Yeah.
So it's...
But I think, I mean, other than New Year's,
the food wasn't good, even though everybody said it was.
I know, it wasn't. But I don't think I have traditions other than, again, for me and my job, I have a lot of little rituals and traditions that I've carried on, and they've morphed. I've added to them, right? Like I give my characters like the playlist, and I write the journals, and I do these things, and then before going into set, I like listen to certain music, or I, give them a horoscope, and I like do all these random things. But I like to... relax, or I like to use if I do yoga or dance or masturbate or do something that like relaxes my body before working and things like that, but those don't really count as
How about
rituals.
the word habit? How does that fit into all this? Because habit now, I think, has a pretty bad connotation, right? You're usually trying to kick a habit, get rid of a habit. Sometimes you want to develop a habit, and what is that, 3 weeks if you're able to do it? Probably another podcast out there, or many there are booklets and pamphlets that talk about how to develop a habit. But like, for example, I do feel weird if I don't make my bed every morning. If I see it and it's undone, I'm just like, oof, it gets to me somehow.
I get certain things out of the way in the morning all the time. So I will have things like, I do have the athletic greens or a supplement or an emergency, drink water.
Habit, ritual, tradition?
I guess habit, because I don't necessarily think, it's not ritualistic to me.
It doesn't have to happen at a certain time.
No, and it's just kind of in the morning, like, you have your athletic greens, you brush your teeth, it's kind of just a habit.
So there's the routine of starting your day, but your day doesn't have to start at specific times.
No.
And so maybe that's it. You can have a routine that isn't dictated by...
Routine, ritual.
Oh, did I just say?
Yeah.
Oh,
we just put a new word.
Routine, ritual, habit, tradition.
Tradition. Yeah. Custom. Nah.
Well, that's another one.
Yeah. No, but so I think a lot of very successful people, what I feel they do, and they all have these habits, routines, whatever you want to call it, but deep down, what I've found is really they just have whatever works for them. It's very customized. Everything is. Some people read in the morning before they get out of bed.
The ice cold shower. Did we mention that one? Because that's brutal.
Yes, it seems painful. I know
you're supposed to start with it. I've ended a few on cold, but starting on cold is just, it seems like punishment.
Yeah.
I know it's good for your immune system, and it's all the Wim Hof breathing and all that stuff. And I mean,
I like to work out in the morning. I don't like to work out at night. So that's one.
Yeah.
In general, I can.
I have worked out at night.
Yeah.
I've done like one of those nighttime boot camps, which was okay for running. It was cool, so that was nice, but...
I think it's almost like all of my little habits are to get things out of the way, so I don't have to think about habits. It's like checking boxes. Like in the morning, working out, or taking supplements, so I don't have to think about what I'm taking in and what I'm eating for lunch and whatever. Maybe for you, making your bed... Yeah. So that you don't have to do it later. Some people it's washing the dishes and things like that.
It's tiny senses of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Also, too. I think those are probably good. It probably would be good to try and develop some new ones or focus on what... Like, I don't know about cold showers, but... Superstitions. Right.
Are you superstitious? Are there things that if you don't do, you feel... don't really have causational elements, but the correlational ones, where you're like, if I don't do X before in my case, go to set. But, for you, maybe it's like, if I don't do X before whatever,
what's funny? I think
something will fail.
I think some superstitions manage to sneak their way into your lives, and I actively try and kick them.
Like what?
Little things that I think were fun in the beginning, like somebody's like, oh, you're supposed to hold your breath underneath a bridge or whatever. Right. And I never thought anything bad was going to happen, but I would do it.
Yeah.
And then I felt strange if I didn't. And then I remember having this realization. I was going on like towards Pasadena. There's a set of 3 bridges, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna hold my breath. Then it just became like a little sense of like, I can do it. But then I thought to myself, it bothers me that it bothers me.
Yeah.
Now that if I haven't done it, and therefore stop doing it. So now I've forgotten. But there was a moment where I would consciously make sure to not hold my breath. I can't.
You don't like superstitions. That's true.
I don't like superstitions. I don't like anything having any sort of control over me.
Yeah.
And so
I think it's funny because my superstitions give me an illusion of control. It's the opposite. For example,
I know that's important sometimes for athletes and so on.
Yeah, I feel like performers. I think musicians in general,
break the leg, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, my little superstitions are like, I wear certain perfume for auditions.
Okay. Yeah.
Or I'll wear a certain type of bracelet on, whatever, a first date or something. It doesn't even have to be about work, but a lot of the time,
I had like a lucky T-shirt for dates.
Yeah.
And I feel like it still works.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's an illusion of control.
It is, yeah.
But I embrace it.
Yeah.
Because I know it's so far out there, but to me, I'm like, yes, this makes me feel there's energy somehow imbued in these things and these rituals and these little behaviors that gives me a sense of like, I'm in control in that moment.
Here's another thing that we've discussed, and I've come around to the idea of accepting that the brain registers symbolism.
Symbolism, yeah.
Which I used to very actively reject.
Right.
And now I do very much acknowledge it because I'm like, okay, there's certain parts of our brain. Let's ask Andrew Huberman. Answer it, please. But that does register, and it can actually change the way we think about things when we do these or act on these things.
Yeah.
And if they're ritual symbols, whatever, pick your word. And I do think that's important. So you do these things in your brain, even though you're like, okay, me wearing this perfume means nothing if the person's on the other side of it.
Especially if it's on Zoom.
Right. Right?
But I do it anyway.
but it is meaningful to you, and your brain's like, oh, we're in X mode, right? Smells and so on can be very triggering, and not in the triggering word but sense, but can help. Evoke, thank you. That's a better...
English.
Anyway, I think that's important, and that's probably part of it, right? Like the bed, on top of the making of the bed becoming a sense of accomplishment, it's a symbol that I've accomplished as well. Like, it's
I mean, even your cleaning at the end of the year, which you're calling like a custom or a ritual or whatever at the end of the year, it symbolizes entering the new year, either unburdened, unloaded, clean, whatever, fresh, with a new, whatever, with less to carry for you. Yeah. So it's symbolic that you're doing it then. It's your little ritual, but at the same time, it has all these different ways. I bet you nowadays you've been doing it so much that if the new year came along and you hadn't done it, you feel a sense of stress.
I did, and I yes, I do, and I did, and but I have given a certain amount of flexibility to this whole pandemic situation, only because the timing, and whatever, the use of different of spaces in my place has been very different. But anyway, so they're useful. So overall, what's our takeaway?
I think the takeaway is do whatever works for you. No, I mean, I'm a big proponent of things will have meaning if you gift them meaning a lot of the time, right? We're talking about the symbolism. And if you gift it meaning, honor it. And if not, then don't give it the meaning. Don't give it that power, right? It's like you can't have it both ways. Yeah. If it has all this meaning and you're giving it to it and then you're not honoring it, then I'm just kind of like, where's your coherence?
Yeah, and I'd say there's a lot of value in just trying it out. And you may come back around to it.
Yeah. I do a lot of, like, my New Year's resolutions tend to be, say, 20 different things.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to maybe do consistently at the end of the year one. Mm-hmm. But I put 20 new rituals and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Like, I'll try them all, and then some fall through. But guess what? Most of the habits that I have, like my supplements in the morning or waking up at a certain time or exercise or whatever it is, come from those New Year's kind of like resolutions that just kind of stick.
Yeah, and again, and they may come back around. You may drop them.
Yeah.
They may not serve a purpose, whatever. But, yeah.
I think for artists especially, it's very beneficial to have a sense of control if your career doesn't grant you that.
Yeah.
So actors, athletes, a lot of the time, you can't control your competition. You can't control so many things.
Right.
The opposite, teammate, whatever. But you can control what makes you feel like you're going to perform your best. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's, for me, where it comes from. Like, if it's a lucky bracelet, if it's a mantra that you tell yourself, right, in the mirror every morning before you go out into the field or the stage or the whatever, and it makes you feel better, do it.
Have an alternative just in case you can't get a hold of that bracelet. How about that? And have an alternative ritual or habit or something like that if you can't accomplish one, do the other one. And with that, go out in the world and practice your habits.
Thank you so much for tuning in again, you guys, and just listening to us shoot the shit. And I'm Christina.
I'm Karen.
And this is Subtitles.
Ciao.